Hello everyone, welcome to English Folio. Today we are going to deal with two historical plays of William Shakespeare. The first one is The Life and Death of King John, and the second one is Henry VIII. Before we move on to this topic, if you haven't subscribed our channel, please subscribe and hit the bell icon so that you don't miss our latest updates. Okay, so these two plays, King John and Henry VIII, does not come under the major tetralogy or minor tetralogy. They exist as separate historical plays. Coming to King John, this play, Life and Death of King John, dramatizes the reign of King John, who reigned over England from 1199 to 1216. He was the son of Henry II of England and Queen Eleanor. This play is believed to have written in mid-1590s but was not published until 1623. This play is closely related to an anonymous history play, The Troublesome Reign of King John. The first performance took place in 1737 at Theatre Royal, Drury Lane. So let's check out the major characters of this play. First we have King John, the King of England, then Eleanor, the Queen, and also the mother of King John. Prince Henry is the son of King John. He later became a king by the name Henry III. Blanche of Castile is John's niece. We have several English noblemen like Earl of Essex, Earl of Salisbury, and Earl of Pembroke. Then we have Philip Focunbridge. He is also known by the name Philip the Bastard. He is the natural son of Richard I of England, who was also known by the name Richard the Lionheart. Robert Focunbridge, his half-brother, is the legitimate son of Sir Robert Focunbridge. Lady Focunbridge is their mother and the widow of Sir Robert Focunbridge. Then we have Lady Constance, who is the widow of Geoffrey II, the Duke of Brittany. Arthur is her son and also King John's nephew. He is a claimant to the English throne and eventual Duke of Brittany. King Philip is the King of France and Louis the Dauphin is his son. The Viscount of Melun is the one who warns English noblemen about the French king's plans. Hubert is a citizen of Angers and later a follower of King John. Cardinal Pandolf is a legate from Pope. So these are the major characters of the play. Moving on to the plot summary. When Act 1 begins, we are introduced to King John and his mother Queen Eleanor, who is greeting a French ambassador. The French King Philip sent the ambassador to claim the English throne on behalf of John's nephew, Prince Arthur. Philip himself is interested in and supportive of Arthur's claim to the throne. John and Eleanor rejects the embassy and France threatens with a war. Shortly afterwards, Robert and Philip Focunbridge comes to the king to settle their family inheritance dispute. There is a confusion in the inheritance law as Philip is older but is an illegitimate child. During their discussion, Eleanor claims that Philip is the bastard son of John's late brother, Richard Coeur de Lion, or Richard the Lionheart. Philip decides to let go of his Focunbridge inheritance in favor of joining Queen Eleanor's army to France. He is given knighthood and the title Sir Richard. His mother, Lady Focunbridge, arrives to defend her honor, but she privately admits that Richard Coeur de Lion was Philip's father. Act 2 begins in France, where King Philip and his court resolve to fight for Arthur's claim to the English throne. They began an attack on English-owned city of Angers. King John arrives to state his right to the French throne, and King Philip once again pledges support to Arthur. Eleanor argues with Constance, Arthur's mother, about the claims of their respective sons. The nobles tries to keep the peace between them, and Hubert, a spokesman for the town of Angers, is asked to judge between the claims. Hubert states that Angers will support whoever wins the throne. A battle ensues, but both the armies claim victory while neither really wins. Angers maintains its stance. After there is no recourse in fighting, the bastard Philip suggests that they unite and punish Angers for their indecision. The spokesman Hubert, now suddenly full of ideas, proposes a peace marriage between John's niece Blanche and French Dauphin Louis to unite both the countries. John supports the match by promising 5 English provinces within France as dowry. Louis and Blanche agrees, and John gives Arthur a noble title to pacify Arthur's mother. The bastard Philip sees John's capitulation as an unwelcoming compromise and resolves to pursue riches for himself. In Act 3, Constance bewails the new Anglo-French alliance and her son's lost inheritance. Arthur himself wishes for peace. On Louis and Blanche's wedding day, Constance continues to argue. Cardinal Pendolph, on embassy for the Pope, interrupts the wedding party. He questions John's refusal to acknowledge the new Archbishop of Canterbury. After criticizing and denying the Pope's distant power, John is excommunicated. King Philip is originally hesitant to oppose John due to the newly formed ties between him and John, but Pendolph persuades King Philip to oppose John and to remove him from office. In the ensuing battle, King John captures Prince Arthur and takes him to Hubert's care in England. Eleanor and Bastard continues the French wars. John persuades Hubert of Angers that Arthur must die as he presents too much of a threat to John's throne. King Philip and Louis mourn the loss of Angers and Prince Arthur. Constance, distraught at her son's loss, blames the cardinal and commits herself wholly to grief. The cardinal persuades Louis to attack England while the country is in turmoil. He tells Philip that Philip has a claim to the throne. Under the direction of King John, Hubert is ordered to kill Arthur. When Act 4 begins, Hubert is threatening to blind the prince and then to take his life, but relents when the boy pleads for mercy. Hubert decides to hide him instead. King John consults with his courtiers who ask for Arthur's freedom, knowing that Hubert was ordered to kill him. A messenger brings news from France. Eleanor and Constance have both died. Eleanor from war and Constance from madness. Louis is threatening to invade England. The bastard arrives to tell of his success in raising support, bringing a prisoner, whom John immediately imprisons in Hubert's care. Hubert tells John that Arthur is dead, much to the dismay and anger of his nobles, many of whom go to join Louis in his siege. When John became angry at Hubert, he denies that he has carried out the murder. Meanwhile, Arthur has killed himself by jumping up from the castle walls. The nobles who find his body blame Hubert and John. More of them join Louis in rebellion against John. In the final act, as the French forces move towards London, strengthened by the defecting Lords, John yields to the church supremacy in return for protection. Pendolph speaks with Louis on John's behalf, but Louis won't be swayed. The bastard, leading the king's forces, also sues for peace with the rebels, but the battle rages regardless. John, struck with illness, seeks refuge at an abbey. In the midst of a battle, a dying French lord, Melon, tells the defecting English lords that they have joined the wrong side. He wants them to return to English armies because Louis plans to kill them if the French win. Hubert seeks out the bastard with the news that King John has been poisoned. The nobles bring John's son Henry to the abbey to witness John's death. The bastard has lost much of his army, but the opposing side finally takes Pendolph's advice and stops their attack. Prince Henry, now king, orders the burial of his father, while the bastard proclaims peace throughout England. So that's how the play ends. Now let's go through the major quotes. For new-made honor doth forget man's names. King John, Act 1, Scene 1. Be great in act, as you have been in thought. Act 5, Scene 1. Life is as tedious as a twice-told tale, vexing the dull ear of a drowsy man. Act 3, Scene 4. Now, let's move on to the next play, Henry VIII. Henry VIII is a collaborative history play written by William Shakespeare and John Fletcher, based on the life of Henry VIII. An alternative title, All is True, is recorded in the contemporary documents. The title Henry VIII did not appear until the play's publication in 1623. Some characteristics of late romances is found in its structure. It has more stage directions than any of the Shakespeare's other plays. Coming to the major characters, first we have Henry VIII, the King of England, then Cardinal Wolsey. He is the Archbishop of York and Lord Chancellor. Initially, he was Henry's chief advisor. Queen Catherine is the wife of Henry VIII. She was later divorced. Anne Boleyn was Catherine's maid of honor. She later became Queen Anne. Duke of Buckingham hates Wolsey, who charges him with treason. Thomas Cranmer was the Archbishop of Canterbury, and he replaces Wolsey as Henry's chief advisor. Stephen Gardiner is a close ally of Wolsey and also King's secretary. He later became the Bishop of Winchester. Cardinal Campius is the papal legate sent to judge the legitimacy of Henry's marriage to Catherine. And finally, we have infant Princess Elizabeth. So these are the major characters. Coming to the plot summary. When Act 1 begins, the Duke of Buckingham, along with some other nobles, is discussing the meeting between King Henry and the French king. They discuss the peace agreement made between them and how it has already been broken. Buckingham expresses his concerns about the amount of power held by Cardinal Wolsey, the Lord Chancellor of England. During this same discussion, Buckingham is unexpectedly arrested, and this was a trick played by Cardinal Wolsey. At the court, King Henry makes policy decisions about the woolen trade, along with his wife, Queen Catherine. Wolsey takes the credit for the king's decision, and Catherine questions his motives. While Henry agrees to this criticism, when the Queen also speaks on behalf of Buckingham, the king refuses to hear it and orders his trial. Wolsey holds a feast at his palace of Hampton, in which the king, disguised as a shepherd, meets Lady Anne Boleyn. Act 2 is taking place in London, where Buckingham is condemned by false witnesses. He powerfully addresses the crowd before being executed. At court, a rumor spreads that Wolsey's power is growing and he is behind a probable separation between the king and Queen Catherine. King Henry, Wolsey, and some other religious leaders discuss the validity of his marriage with Queen Catherine. They discuss the possibility of a divorce. Anne Boleyn hears the rumor and feels sorry for the Queen. When the word arrives that the king has given her a title, her companion persuades her to welcome the king's favors. During a trial set up for the divorce, Queen Catherine asks to be allowed advisors from Spain, which is her native country. When Wolsey refuses, she accuses him of being responsible for Henry's desire for divorce. She leaves the trial, ending it. In Act 3, Catherine is seeking solace with her ladies and music, while Wolsey and Campus interrupts her and tries to persuade her to submit to the king's wishes. She refuses, but the divorce is finalized anyway. Soon, Henry's secret marriage to Anne Boleyn is the talk of the court. And King Henry realizes that Wolsey has been secretly writing to the Pope opposing the divorce. He then confronts Wolsey, and some of the lords demand that Wolsey give up his position of Lord Chancellor. And now Thomas More has been chosen to succeed him. Wolsey steps down, advising his secretary Cromwell to leave. Soon, Queen Anne is crowned, and everyone remarks at the splendor of the ceremony at court. In retirement, Catherine hears of Wolsey's death. She dreams of her own death and asks her servants to see that she is buried with due recognition as a queen. In the final act, the court gossip rages about the changes such as Queen Anne's new baby daughter. The court gossip also includes charges against Cranmer, the new archbishop. After a struggle between Cranmer and his enemies, the king defends Cranmer and names him the godfather of the baby Princess Elizabeth. As he baptizes Elizabeth, Cranmer prophesies that she will become great and bring peace and plenty to England. So that's how the play Henry VIII ends. Now let's look at the major quotes. My drops of tears I'll turn to sparks of fire. Henry VIII, Act 2, Scene 4. Next quote. We all are men in our own natures frail and capable of our flesh. Few are angels. Act 5, Scene 3. Okay guys, so I hope this video gave you an outline about the play of King John and Henry VIII. Thank you so much for listening and stay tuned for our next update.